So what? Today we are going to explain the first episode of the Korean drama named Goblin, which is a romance, fantasy, comedy genre. There is a goblin who has been living between the afterworld and this world for centuries. The day he finds his bride, he will be able to rest in peace. But the bride must see something special about the goblin. One day, he meets a girl called his bride. That girl is someone who lives by avoiding death. A grim reaper, who is a god of death, comes after that girl to take that girl to the death she has avoided. Who will be the first? Between the grim reaper and the goblin? What is the story behind all of this? If you want to know all this, you have to wait until the end of this drama. Here is the legend of the goblin. If a soul lives on something that was used by a human or on something that was stained with human blood, then he is called a goblin. In this way, there is a sword that is stained with the blood of his master and the blood of many other people during wars. There is a goblin on that sword. So only his bride can take this sword from the goblin. Once the sword is taken, the goblin can rest in peace. This legend about the goblin is being told by an old woman who sells goods to a beautiful young woman, but this woman does not believe it. However, she says that the gods are evil, because for the goblin to die, his bride must draw the sword. Grandma says that God is evil, jealous, and selfish. This girl is very close to that grandmother. She looks at a jade ring that Grandma has and puts it back on and leave. Grandma stops her. She tells the girl that if you are in a situation between life and death, pray sincerely, because maybe a god with a kind heart can hear it. Now let's go to Paris in 1968. A well-dressed man comes and stands in front of a building. He helps a boy who is running away from home. While talking to this boy, he picks up a flower pot and places it in the middle of the stairs. The boy's stepfather screams and comes for hit the boy, but he falls and breaks his back when he hits the flower pot. Then, this person gives the boy a sandwich for lunch and answers a question on the exam paper. The boy is really surprised to know who this unknown person is.
We are now going back centuries. This unknown man was a human being at that time. His name is Kim Shin. He was a general in the army. The people treated him like a god. He was a brave general who destroyed hundreds of thousands of enemies on the battlefield. After the war was over and the people were victorious, Kim Shin returned to the palace with the rest of his army. But unexpectedly, the king made Kim Shin a traitor. But Kim Shin tried to approach the king. At that moment, the palace guards shot arrows at Kim Shin's army. Kim Shin's second officer shouted, "How can you treat people who fought for their country for 3 nights?" At the same time, the main door of the palace opened. Kim Shin went into the palace alone. The queen and the king were both waiting for Kim Shin. Meanwhile, the king's chief advisor poisoned the king's head. To people, Kim Shin was like a god. Therefore, Kim Shin is considered to be overtaking the power of the royal family. As soon as Kim Shin steps forward, the king says that if he steps forward even one more step, he will kill the entire family. The king is jealous and afraid of Kim Shin. But the queen tells Kim Shin to go forward. Kim Shin goes forward. An arrow hits the queen in the chest. Here we can imagine that the queen is a member of Kim Shin's family. Even though the queen falls to the ground, Kim Shin keeps going. The king also kills his family members. Since Kim Shin does not stop, a guard cuts off one of his legs with the sword and goes to kill him. Kim Shin's second officer screams and runs to the palace and asks the king if he is not afraid of the god. At that moment, the king's advisor orders Kim Shin to be killed. But Kim Shin does not allow the soldier to kill him. He asks the second officer to kill him one last time. The officer stabs Kim Shin in the chest with Kim Shin's sword. He says that he is also following Kim Shin, and at the same time, the officer is killed. The king's advisor orders that Kim Shin's body be fed to animals instead of being buried. The king leaves without even looking. The queen also breathes her last breath there. It's shown the royal jade ring on her hand. Do you remember the young girl who was with the grandmother holding a ring like this? Kim Shin's body is taken to a grass field. But Kim Shin is not dead yet. The sword is still in his chest. At the same time, the narrator says not to pray to the gods for anything, because the gods do not hear anything. Kim Shin dies that evening.
Now we are in Seoul in 1998. A man wearing a black suit, an overcoat, and a black hat is crossing the street. He crashes into an oncoming car. The front of the car is completely destroyed, but the man doesn't even move. He is not hurt. The driver of the car gets out and screams, but the man tells the driver that a wild boar jumped into your car. At the same time, he disappears in a puff of black smoke. Then many people come to there. The driver also says that a wild boar jumped into the car. It's as if he has forgotten what happened. There is a woman's body in the trunk of the car. A woman is looking at this body. She is shocked at once. Who is that dead? Wait a minute. The woman herself? This is her soul that is shocked. The man dressed in black comes and reads the woman's name, birth date, and death date from a card. This mysterious man is a Grim Reaper. That is, a god of death who comes to take the dead soul. He takes the soul to a tea house. There, he gives her a cup of tea. When she drinks the tea, she forgets everything that happened to her. When the woman asks if not she drink it, the Grim Reaper says that if she doesn't drink it, she will regret it. The Grim Reaper wipes the teacup that the woman drank and puts it in a cupboard. It is an unimaginably large teacup cupboard. At the same time, General Kim Shin, whom we saw earlier, walks by a wall. He is the goblin. That means the goblin has already lived for centuries. The Grim Reaper sees the goblin and both identifies each other. It seems that the Grim Reaper has hidden his tea room behind a wall with magic. Only the goblin can see it. The goblin takes his bag and comes to a large mansion. The candles in it light up automatically. The clothes that were covered with the things float away. The goblin has this kind of ability. An elderly servant comes and calls the goblin Lord, like a king. The goblin has come to this house after 20 years. He's been in another country. The servant introduces his grandson, little Yu Duk-hwa, to the goblin. Duk-hwa speaks to the goblin in a slightly different way. The goblin introduces himself to Duk-hwa as someone who is your uncle, brother, son, and grandson. Goblin remembers one of Duk-hwa's ancestors. Centuries ago, General Kim Shin, who was killed in Goryeo, where the body of him was there, his faithful servant was crying. He came with his grandson. That grandson was exactly like Duk-hwa. At the same time, Kim Shin's stuck sword started to move. At that time, the god said, "The servants will heal General Kim Shin's soul, but everyone the general killed is a god's creation. Therefore, Kim Shin will have to become immortal and watch the people he loves die. Those memories will never be forgotten. That blessing is both a gift and a punishment from the god. Only the goblin's bride can pull out the sword stuck in his chest. Then the goblin can rest in peace." The god said, "General Kim Shin is resurrected as a goblin. He has that sword stuck in his chest. As soon as he wakes up from death, the goblin goes to the palace. He first drags the advisor who is leading the king to him and kills him. Seeing a corpse lying there, the goblin says that he is too late. When the goblin comes to the little boy again, his grandfather is dead. The goblin says that he will be my first punishment. At that time, the little boy promises to serve the goblin. Then the two of them cross the sea on a ship. At this time, a man on the ship throws the child into the sea, saying that he needs to reduce the weight of the ship. The enraged goblin uses his power to destroy the ship little by little and sinks it with his sword.
Now we are in the present. It is snowing. While the goblin is on the rooftop of a tall building and looking around, a car comes and hits a woman. That woman is none other than the girl who was with the grandmother when the drama began. She is badly injured and begs God for help. The goblin comes down from the roof and goes to where the girl is lying. The girl asks to save only her child. Even though the goblin has no right to interfere in human life, he saves that woman that day. The Grim Reaper takes the death card and goes to the place where the blood is smeared. One card has the name of the girl, and the other card has no name, but it says age 0. But there is no one there to take to Grim Reaper. Since it has snowed and the flowers have bloomed that day, it seems that something strange has happened there. The girl has given birth to a baby girl. There are ghosts' whispers from outside the window that the goblin's bride has been born. 8 years later, the little girl who was born is now all grown up. She has a birthmark on her neck. Her name is Gyun Tak. Mom loves Gyun Tak very much. Gyun Tak has a special ability. She can see dead souls. When Gyun Tak comes home from school in the evening, she sees his mother sitting in the living room with a cake. Gyun Tak happily sits next to his mother and lights candles. She is now 9 years old. But after a while, Gyun Tak realizes that it is not her mother, but her mother's spirit. At that time, Gyun Tak's mother has died and is being taken to the hospital. Gyun Tak cries a lot. Her mother says that she will get a call from the hospital. Then she asks Gyun Tak to put on the scarf for warmth and never look into the eyes of the spirits again. Mom says goodbye to Gyun Tak. When the call comes from the hospital, Gyun Tak is ready to put on the scarf and leave. She looks at the cake and says, "I will never wish again," because there was no one to listen to her. Mom's spirit is going to see that grandmother. She asks her to visit Gyun Tak from time to time. She also thanks her for helping her save her life that day. Then she disappears. When Gyun Tak comes out of the house, she's met the Grim Reaper. He came to see her mother's spirit because she was not at the hospital. He's curious about Gyun Tak seeing him. He remembers that 8 years ago, this is the nameless child on the card at the time of the accident. The Grim Reaper is about to take the child away. Grandma comes there. Grandma tells Grim Reaper that 8 years ago, this child did not have a name. Now, she has a name. Therefore, in order to take the child away, he must show documents to prove that this is the same child. The Grim Reaper disappears. Grandma sees the Grim Reaper. That means she is also a powerful person. Grandma tells Gyun Tak to go with her aunt when she comes to the funeral, so that the Grim Reaper cannot find her. She also gives her the cabbage as a birthday present. 10 years pass. Now become a very beautiful lady. While she is walking over a bridge, a boy passing by asks her if she wants to get a drink. That boy is Do Kwa, the grandson of the goblin's servant. Gyun Tak is now a high school girl. She is all alone because she sees ghosts, so others don't approach her. When she leaves school, a ghost talks to her, but Gyun Tak pretends not to see her. When the ghost comes in front of her and screams, Gyun Tak screams in fear. At the same time, the ghost who saw the goblin apologizes and disappears from there. The goblin passes Gyun Tak. The goblin's servant prepares a passport for the goblin to go abroad. If he goes again, it will be about 20 years for comeback. The servant is sad that he will never see the goblin again. Meanwhile, Do Kwa comes and screams about his credit card being canceled. His grandfather also canceled it. Do Kwa sees the goblin's passport. He asks if he's going to find the bride again. Do Kwa calls Goblin uncle. The next day, Gyun Tak wakes up and cooks dinner for his aunt, daughter, and son. It's Gyun Tak's birthday. But these aunts treat her very badly. As she gets ready to go to school, her aunt asks Gyun Tak about a bank passbook that her mother insured for her. When she says she doesn't know about such a thing, her aunt hits her. Gyun Tak leaves the house soaked in the rain. Meanwhile, Goblin is standing in a field full of flowers, holding a bunch of flowers in his hand and waiting for someone to come. Gyun Tak goes to a small harbor, looks out at the sea, and lights the candles on a cake and says, "When I was 9 years old, I said I doesn't wish. But she says she's wishing now because she's alone now." She asks for a part-time job, something to do to her relatives, and a boyfriend. The goblin hears these wishes. Since it's going to rain, Gyun Tak quickly blows out the candles. Then she keeps cursing the rain. Goblin talks to Gyun Tak from behind. Goblin can't figure out how he got there. He thinks Gyun Tak brought him. Gyun Tak recognizes Goblin as a ghost she saw on the road. Goblin says he's not a ghost, but Gyun Tak doesn't accept it. Besides, Goblin can usually see someone's future just by looking at them, but he can't see Gyun Tak's future. Goblin is also surprised by that. Gyun Tak sees the bunch of flowers in Goblin's hand and asks for those flowers, saying that it's her birthday today. When asked what the meaning of the cornflowers are, Goblin says, it means lovers. Goblin asks Gyun Tak which one wants her from the 3 wishes she asked for, because Goblin can fulfill some people's wishes. But Gyun Tak wonders how the goblin heard her wishes. She thinks the goblin is a ghost or a guardian angel. Instead of asking for the things she asked for before, Gyun Tak asks for 5 million won or the winning numbers on the lottery tickets. The goblin ignores that and tells her to go away from home for a while and work at a fried chicken shop. then he disappears. Gyuntak screams and asks what will happen to her boyfriend. The goblin immediately comes to his house. At that time, the Grim Reaper is inside the house. Dokwa has rented the house to the Grim Reaper because when the goblin usually leaves, he comes back home after about 20 years. The goblin tells the Grim Reaper to leave the house, but the agreement that the Reaper signed for the house, when shown, Goblin uses his power to set it on fire. The Reaper says he will take Dokwa away if he doesn't let him stay home, so Goblin has to let Reaper stay home. The two sit on opposite sides of the long dining table, fight with their ability of floating things while eating.
The next day, Gyuntak goes to every fried chicken shop in the area to look for a part-time job, but none of them offer her a job. She reminds of the goblin and blame him. At the same time, when something put in the trash can catches fire, Gyuntak blows on it. The goblin appears in front of her. Neither of them knows how the goblin appears near Gyuntak like this. However, Gyuntak scolds the goblin for not finding a part-time job. The goblin can't stand the girl's trouble and disappears from there. Another day, while praying in the church, Gyuntak suddenly remembers and lights a candle and blows it out. Then the goblin comes up behind her. She is known when she blows the flames, then Goblin appears. When she asks Goblin about her boyfriend, Goblin tells her to work harder and he leaves. Back in the library, Gyuntak blows out a candle on her phone and brings in Goblin. When Goblin is about to leave, she holds him hand and stops him. But she can't hold on for too long. Her hand burns and she breaks away. The blue flame coming out of Goblin's hand is very strong. When Goblin tries to leave Gyuntak's way, she asks Goblin if he is a goblin. Because he has a shadow, he can't be a ghost. Surprised that Goblin has been recognized, Goblin asks Gyuntak who she is. Gyuntak says that she is Goblin's bride. Because she can see ghosts, she's heard the story from ghosts. Gyuntak shows the birthmark on her neck. He says that's why she sees ghosts. Then the goblin remembers Gyuntak's mother who saved him from a car accident. He asks Gyuntak what she sees when he looks at her. Goblin wants to know if Gyuntak is really a bride. Gyuntak says that Goblin is tall and wears nice clothes. But when Goblin finds out that she doesn't see what he wants, he says that she's not Goblin's bride and leaves. When Goblin opens the door of the library, it takes him to Canada. That is another power Goblin has, but Gyuntak follows him. Goblin is surprised to see Gyuntak come to Canada with him through that door. When Gyuntak finds out that she is in Canada, she's surprised and goes to look around. She tells Goblin that he is a real goblin. Gyuntak immediately tells Goblin, "Then I've made up my mind. I love you." This is how the first episode of the Goblin drama ends. Is Gyuntak really Goblin's bride? Will Goblin continue to live in the same house with the Grim Reaper? Will Gyuntak be in trouble with the Grim Reaper? So, we'll see you in the next episode.